Stop. So, everyone complains about Twotime getting, buffed when LMS starts. So, what if everyone got buffed when LMS starts? God, I'm gonna get so much fucking hate for this. But, with that out of the way, let's begin. So, starting off with Shadletsky, he would have an ability called Sword Fighter. When LMS starts, it does two things to both of his abilities. First of all, Fried Chicken no longer has a animation when used or slows him down. However, the healing is reduced from 50 to 25 to compensate. As for Slash, hitting the kill to Slash halves Slash's duration, but reduces the stun by about 1 second, I'd say. It's a fair trade-off. This is meant to incentivize using the Slash more carefully, and also rewarding the player for landing a Slash, which I think, would be really cool. Yeah. Next up is Noob, and this one I put a lot of forethought into, and I may or may not have stolen the idea from Die of Death, Adrenaline. When LMS starts, Noob's top sprint speed is increased, but his stamina is reduced by 20. So he can run really fast, but not for very long. Also, if his stamina ever hits 0, it will take a much longer time to come back than when outside of LMS. This trade-off basically is, well, first of all, it's inspired by, the adrenaline ability from Die of Death, but also I feel like it gives a player a way to learn stamina management, but also be rewarded for managing their stamina. Will this also make Noob much more targeted than before? Yeah, absolutely. But granted, I think it's still a neat concept. Next is Elliot, and this one is also kind of neat an idea. Elliot now can eat his own pizzas in Last Man Standing, however, their healing is reduced and not dependent on generators completed, so it'd be, I think, maybe, to be fair, maybe 15 per pizza, and only 5 of it is instantly applied, and the 10 has to be over time. So, actual Elliot's healing. However, as a bit of a compensation, the killer can also eat said pizzas, and this will give them a brief, maybe 3-second speed boost of speed 1. So it's kind of almost risk reward. Also, Elliot would not be able to eat his pizzas instantly. I think there would be maybe a 2-second delay, so he can't just toss one in front of him and instantly pick it up. So that's that idea. And then, Rush Hour just stays the same. It can only be used once you have the charge and cannot be used in LMS once you use it. So, yeah. Next is Builderman. Also, Builderman shares basically the same thing with V, because I kind of, didn't have an idea how to make V unique. So they both have an ability called Adrenaline. When LMS starts, for V, graffiti placing is, instead of taking however assertion, it only takes about 5 seconds. And Builderman placing a turret, or if you for some reason really fucking wanted to, as a dispenser, is only about 3 seconds. First of all, the discrepancy is because the V can cross half the fucking map in 5 seconds with skateboard ability, so it seems about fair that, the cooldown's a little longer. And also, basically, this makes Builderman more viable in LMS, because as he currently stands, if nothing of his is placed down, he's fucking cooked. So I feel like making it so he can place turrets faster, but has to be diligent of the distance to the killer is from him, as a kind of fair trade-off. Same thing for V, kind of, not similar thing of has to be careful how close the killer is, but can do it much faster, giving their way to replenish their graffiti once all of them are broken, because if that happens in LMS, you kind of can't do anything once they're all gone. So, yeah. Next up is 7 and 7. I have no fucking ideas for 7 and 7, dude. Because reducing one cool GUI would be too OP. What the fuck can you do with the clones? You can already fucking clone parry. I don't know. If you guys have an idea, let me know. Next, Guest. Guest, we get an ability called Hardened, and I feel like this is a simple change, but making it so charge, it stuns now. It doesn't knock back the killer anymore, but it will stun them. However, it only stuns them for about, maybe, a second to maybe a half second, 1.5 seconds. So it's not very long. Just gives Guest enough time to maybe get a tiny bit of distance or reorient themselves to a better position to maybe, get a block in or something. That would be all that would do. Next would be Twotime. Twotime I feel is, we already know he's a pain in the ass in LMS starts, so here's my proposed change. When LMS starts, regardless of his oblation, he will always be set to 90 HP. Now, why the hell is it only a 10% increase? That's because of the change. The more oblation Twotime has, the more HP he gets when LMS starts. At a quarter of it, he gets 100, like the normal survivor health. At 3/4, he gets his current 110, and as a smaller buff, at full oblation, he gets 120. 120. However, to compensate for this shenaniganery, backstabs and front stabs give the exact same amount of oblation during rounds. Now, you're wondering why the fuck is that a good idea? And it's just to compensate for this. Also because, frankly, I know Twotime got nerfed to hell and back, but I don't know, man. I feel like getting like 110 health by just one backstab is a little unfair. So there's that. I guess I can increase the healing. I don't know. Fucking make the beggar heal like not 30 HP when he makes the backstab instead. I don't know. Next is isn't it Taff? I think it's Taff. Taff is a simple change. His landmines arm faster and stun. They only stun for like maybe 2 seconds, and no longer inflict helpless or the subspaced effect. But I think it's an interesting trade-off. Also, he no longer is slowed down when throwing his mines in LMS. No, that's his only change. And then Dusakar. I'm starting to run dry on ideas here, so Dusakar kind of can just briefly stun with his plasma. I think that would be fair. As a trade-off, I literally have no fucking idea, dude. Or I think another interesting ability would be Plasma can briefly stun, and the shield ability can be used on himself. And granted, it only lasts about 5 seconds like normal, and if he gets hit, it instantly breaks. It basically only negates one hit. Next up is Chance. When LMS starts, Coin Flip now is changed drastically to be a heavy risk reward. If landed on heads, Chance instantly gets 3 charges for all of his abilities. However, if he fails and gets tails, he gets 3 weakness. Essentially, the trade-off is that you get all your charges for landing it, but get the equivalent weakness for not landing 3 charges, which I think would be a cool way to make Chance even more risk-reward than he already is. And, I just think that's kind of neat. So yeah, this is the general idea I had. Some of these are kind of meh, some of these are kind of cool, some of these are like, that's kind of OP. So, I don't know, let me know what you think. I thought this was kind of a cool idea and a thought experiment, because, granted, if you're going to complain about Twotime being buffed in LMS, just fuck it, make everyone buffed in LMS. So, yeah, that's about it. See you guys next time.